Hi everyone, it's Kelly here from spiritualawakeningsigns.com. I'm your spiritual awakening guide, here to help you because it's not an easy process to come through. And I'm really quite excited because today's class is all about the pineal gland. So we're getting into, it's basically a crash course on the pineal gland, everything that you need to know. And what you're going to learn is, what is the pineal gland? What does it actually do? Because that's really quite a hard thing that we don't hear about very often. How it can help you to access your full psychic and intuitive abilities. And how you can activate and most importantly decalcify it. So you might have heard that buzzword around. We're going to be talking about all of that today. So if you're on the live video, please feel free to say hello, tell me where you're watching from, and thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. So let's get into the material we're on today. Now, before we get into the spiritual aspects of the pineal gland, I just want to cover the kind of technical, physical stuff. And I know it's boring and we don't really like that bit, we like with the spiritual stuff. But we'll cover the physical just so that you've got a good understanding of it. So it'll help explain a few things. So we're going to make it quick and simple, alright? The pineal gland is essentially a pea-sized endocrine gland in the centre of your brain. So the same as your third eye, if you were to go right down the centre there and right in the centre there, the points where they cross, that's where your pineal gland would be. And it's shaped a little bit like a pine cone, and that's why you'll tend to see pine cones dotted throughout history, you know, in spirituality and religion, and there's a lot of them that are hidden in plain sight. So watch out for them and you'll notice that they're everywhere. Once you start looking, these pine cones are everywhere, and it's very connected to what we're working on today. So I just want to say a quick hello. Hi to Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us, and Jasmine as well from Southern California. I bet the weather's better there than it is today here in Scotland, let me assure you. Thank you for joining us, ladies, I really appreciate it. So let's get into the pineal gland. What does it actually do? Right, that's the question. What does it really actually do? Well, physically, there's not really a lot of understanding around exactly what the pineal gland does. Nobody really knows exactly what its function is, most likely because we're falling out of the practice of using it in this day and age. Times have changed. We're not as connected spiritually as we once were, so it's kind of fallen into misuse. We just don't use it at all anymore. But physically, it mainly governs the regulation of hormones in your body. And one of those hormones that it does produce is melatonin. So this gets quite interesting and links into a lot of the spiritual beliefs that we have about the pineal gland and ascension. So melatonin regulates all your sleep and wake cycles and your circadian rhythms. So that might explain why when we go through awakening, as this pineal gland starts to become activated, we have all these sleep disturbances. We can't sleep, we get to sleep, we can't stay asleep, or you know, we're up half the night, and it just throws everything out of alignment, and that might be the reason why. And it's also influenced by light, which I think is quite interesting. The pineal gland physically is influenced and governed by light. So that kind of brings new meaning to the word of enlightenment, doesn't it? It's the light is governing the journey and the activation. It's pretty cool. But the other cool thing about the pineal gland and the hormones that it produces is that it, with melatonin, you know, if you have a decline in melatonin, it'll speed up the aging process. So that just kind of brings us back to this belief that we have that when we activate the pineal gland and we go through ascension, we're going to look younger, we're going to feel healthier. It's just some really interesting links that we see when we start looking at what it's really doing physically. So now that we've done that, we can get into the more spiritual side of things. It's also known as the seat of the soul. You might hear that around, the seat of the soul, because it houses your third eye. So this is your greatest psychic receptor, this little point here. And spiritually, there's really a lot that the pineal gland, as seemingly small as it is, it's only pea-sized, can really do when it's fully activated. It can do an awful lot of things, but you need to think about it a bit like a doorway to higher consciousness, higher dimensions, astral travel, other realms, and enlightenment. So it's really opening things up in a really big way, and it's really cool. It's a large part of your awakening journey, so we're going to be getting into even more as we move on. So I just want to say hello to some of the people that have joined us, because I really, really appreciate it. So we've got Elizabeth here from Seattle. You might be rainy. You might be giving us a run for our money here in Scotland today. Hi to Seattle. And Maria, you're always on here, Maria. Thanks for joining us. Paul and Kristen as well. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us. It's fab. I'm really glad you're here. And I'll be taking some questions as well. So if any of this stuff that we're talking about raises some questions, or there's anything that you don't understand, just ask. Just pop it in the comments box. There are no silly questions whatsoever, and I'll get to answering them at the end. Alright, so Elizabeth says it's lovely weather here in Seattle. I'm jealous. It's very rainy here in Scotland today. All the more reason to be in here talking to you guys. So let's get into why the pineal gland is considered to be so spiritual. How did that come about? Why do we view it in such a spiritual way? Well, its activation tends to go hand in hand with awakening and other spiritual experiences, and studies have shown that it produces DMT. You might have heard this term before, DMT, so that's famously dubbed the spirit molecule, DMT, and it's believed to be released at the time of death, okay? And that seems to be responsible for these near-death, out-of-body, kind of mystical and enlightening experiences that people have. So it's definitely responsible for some sort of psychic awareness that we have, even though we're not sure how it comes about. And it's worth noting that psychedelic drugs can trigger that same release of DMT, which is probably why substances like ayahuasca have been used, you know, for such a long time to create spiritual experiences and instantly open us up to higher consciousness immediately, and can open the psychic senses and give us this kind of heightened intuition. But I have a word of caution. Now, you will know that in these videos I always give you information, but I also always give you a word of caution for things that you need to know, because I believe it's really important that I'm responsible. If I'm going to be a guide for you, I need to let you know the pitfalls as well, so that you're very aware of what's going on. There's a word of caution here, because although all of this sounds really cool, that you can just take psychedelic drugs and you open your pineal gland and do all these cool things, I really have to advise that if you're going through spiritual awakening, please don't experiment with mind-altering or psychedelic drugs, because in our weakened state of awakening, we're really prone to spiritual emergence, or spiritual emergency. You might have heard of that term. This is when your awakening hits a crisis point, and purposely triggering these experiences through the use of things like that at such a delicate time could cause you to have a nervous breakdown, psychosis, mental health challenges, and serious physical complications too. There are other much more gentle ways to activate your pineal gland, which we're going to be getting into in just a wee minute. Okay, so you don't need to do it that other way. You take care of your physical body, because you're going to need it. So let's talk a little bit about what the pineal gland can actually do. Okay, it can catalyze spiritual awakening and enlightenment. It can, you know, if you're already on the awakening pathway, it can boost you further forward. If you haven't started that awakening process, it will catalyze it, it will create it for you. It can fully activate your intuition and your psychic senses, opening all these senses up in all the different parts of you, so that you are a fully intuitive being and you're using and equipped with all of the gifts that you came here with. It can help us access higher wisdom, facilitate astral travel. That's what allows you to transport yourself to other spaces energetically. It can also help us to see past illusion and to see truth, to gain that higher perspective, and it can enhance spiritual connection as well. Pretty cool. The pineal gland is pretty awesome as these things go, but wait, there is a problem. There is a problem. And you might have heard this before, calcification. Calcification. It's a bit of a buzzword these days, and if you've heard of the pineal gland, you'll definitely have heard about calcification or decalcification. But what exactly does it mean? Well, to put it really simply, our pineal glands develop a kind of like a hard crust around them, and it's generally caused by the consumption of things like fluoride and chlorine and other toxins over time. It builds up over time, and it inhibits our psychic abilities. It kind of keeps us asleep. So imagine that hard crust around the pineal gland, really just blocking it and encasing it. And the hard crust, you might have heard it called brain sand. Sometimes people refer to it as brain sand. And it blocks psychic information from coming in, okay? Because there's a wall in the way. It stops the psychic information from coming in, and it also limits your ability to connect out, to connect up, okay? It totally affects your ability to do that. So in a sense, that calcification kind of keeps us asleep. It keeps us asleep to the gifts that we've got. It stops us being able to freely connect, to access higher wisdom, and to sense that divine unconditional love that is around us all the time. Makes you wonder how we would feel if that was activated and open all the time. Completely different. So using the pineal gland really used to be a normal way of life, and you'll have heard of these ancient civilizations, these fallen civilizations, where places like Atlantis, where they had full use of those psychic gifts and those intuitive powers, and we've really fallen out of doing that. We've forgotten how to do that, completely forgotten how to do that, and it's gone unused for so long that we're waking up to the possibility and the potential of something that actually, you know, catching up with and getting to grips with is really quite difficult. It's a very challenging shift to make, and it's affecting all of us. So you need to imagine how different your life would be if we had access to those abilities all the time. The earthly experience would be a completely different thing, and there would be more of us feeling a bit happier to be here rather than wishing we could get back up there. So the question you'll be wondering now is, how can you activate it? How can you decalcify it? Okay, so we're going to get into all of that, and I just want to say hello to everyone else who's joined. We've got loads of you on now. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's see, we've got, is it Ear? I'm not sure how to say that. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with names and some of these things. Limerline, Mona, Annabelle and Fiona, and like I said, I'll get to all your questions at the end, so any of this that doesn't quite compute or it doesn't make sense or anything that makes you wonder, just ask a question in the comments box and I'll answer them all at the end for you, okay? So how can you activate and decalcify your pineal gland? Well, the truth is that the minute your awakening began, it already became activated. The minute your awakening started, it was already activated, and it began this decalcification process without you needing to do anything at all. It had already started. Thank you for the love and likes, guys. I really appreciate it. In fact, it was the pineal activation that created all those really difficult awakening symptoms that you're having. The process has already started, okay? The only problem is the process can be very slow. The process of awakening and decalcifying your pineal gland is very slow. It can take years of meditative practice, detoxifying and lifestyle changes to really fully activate your pineal gland and get the use of all those psychic senses. And that's what we're really all aiming for, an unbroken connection to our higher selves and to source, to help us while we're here, to guide us while we're here in the physical realm. Well, the good news is that there are two different ways that you can actually decalcify your pineal gland. The first one is physical. The physical route of decalcifying your pineal gland is a long-term approach. Okay, there's two different approaches here. The physical route is a long-term approach. So you can physically decalcify your pineal gland with long-term spiritual practices like meditation. So practicing for a long time over long expanses of time. Detoxing your diet and drinking only pure water. So we're talking like a plant-based diet, completely plant-based, removing meat, removing chemicals, removing additives and preservatives from your diet. And also removing toxins from your environment like fluoride, chlorine, pesticides, things like that. Now, there are three options that you can do. It's certainly doable, okay? Absolutely doable, but it requires a lot of focused effort over a long period of time, okay? This is where you've got people who were meditating in caves, you know, kind of ancient ones and yogis and all these kind of spiritual gurus. They spent a long time, dedicated most of their lives to practicing meditation and getting into that clear space to activate this pineal gland. That's one route, which you can do if you choose. The second is energetic. That's the second way to decalcify your pineal gland. It's an easier, more gentle and more immediate result when you do it energetically. So you can energetically decalcify your pineal gland with what we call energetic activation. Energetic activation. And it's the process of activating and decalcifying using energy instead of physical means. We make the changes on the energetic level, and that cuts out the length of time that it takes for the physical approach to take effect. It cuts it out. And it also means that we can teach the energy and the body how to adjust to these changes. So it's a much more gentle method. You're not going to be able to teach your body how to adjust to the changes when it's done over the long expanses of time, but you can actually bring an energetic activation in with like a teaching and a download to say, here's the blueprint for your body, here's how to handle this. Okay, it makes it a lot easier on the body and on the energy too. My preferred approach is to connect to my guides, which by the way are your guides too, and allow them to make those energetic shifts for us. They are a collective group of higher beings, and they are dedicated to assisting us on our awakening pathway. Absolutely dedicated, and they're trying to help us to get to our life purpose and soul mission more quickly, because that's definitely in their benefit, more easily, and with their full love and support behind us. They really, really want us to succeed massively, and I've created an energy healing that will do this activation for you, but we'll get to more of that in just a little minute. So you're probably wondering, after everything that I've shared with you, what is the best route for you? Well, the truth is you can choose to decalcify and activate your pineal gland in whichever method suits you best. But it's important to note that neither one of them is a quick fix. Okay, the physical route takes longer and requires more conscious effort, but the energetic route takes a little bit of time and practice as well. So it's really important that you know neither one is really a very quick fix. One of them is faster than the other, but there's no real quick fix to this process. But there are benefits to doing it energetically rather than physically, apart from the fact that it's really hard and long and drawn out. The benefits of doing it energetically, this activation, is that it's going to speed up the process. It's going to make the process of awakening and activating the pineal gland much faster. It's going to reduce the intensity and the duration of the ascension symptoms that you get as part of that shift of the awakening of the pineal gland. It's going to ease the transition, make it easier, and it's going to support your body and its energies as they adjust to the changes. So it's kind of like setting a foundation to say, okay, we're going to do this activation, here's how to cope with it, here's how to manage these shifts. Then we make the activation, so making sure that everything's properly prepared, you've got the foundations in place, you're doing it sensibly, you're doing it gently, and you're doing it without disrupting the entirety of your life, because the other way definitely works, and it's things that I've tried over the years, but it does take a long time, and it takes a lot of really kind of struggled effort, which is not always a good vibration to be in, unless it's something that particularly resonates with you, but it wasn't for me, if I'm honest. So it's important that you know that even when you activate it energetically, it won't magically switch on to a level that your mind and body is not ready for. Okay, you should be glad that it won't, because the adjustment could cause your mind to momentarily malfunction, as it struggles to keep up. But it will be much faster and a much more gentle than the physical approach. But you need to know that it's not going to just snap on really quickly. It takes a little bit of time just to make those changes. But you're also probably wondering, do you need to physically detox? Because that's what a lot of people say. They're like, yeah, but everyone says you have to do all these detoxing and cutting out fluoride and doing all those things. No, you don't have to do it that way. If you do it through energetic activation, it's different, because as your pineal gland continues to decalcify and become more awakened, you're going to naturally align with more spiritual practice, a cleaner diet and a healthier lifestyle over time. Okay, that's a place that we're all going to in the ascension pathway. We're coming away from all the density, the negativity, and the things that actually negatively impact our bodies. We're becoming more intuitively aware of what we're putting in our bodies and how it's affecting us and the environment around us. So it will happen over time. The only difference is that you won't be struggling to maintain it. So you can make this shift energetically with the activation, and then just allow over time yourself to be naturally pulled towards a healthier diet, you know, removing additives and being in a healthier space. And you'll be doing it because it's a natural flowing progression that actually feels good, not because you're trying to force it to make sure that you have this pineal activation. You don't need to do that, just do what feels good. And that's exactly how I activated and decalcified my own, through energetic activation. And it's a pretty interesting story, and I'll be sharing it in the next article, so look out for, I think it's Tuesday that's coming out. I'm sharing the story of how mine became activated and all the things that happened afterwards, because it's a really cool story. So keep a little eye out for that. But these two methods, whether you go physically decalcify or energetically decalcify, the two methods go hand in hand. This is what I'm talking about here. So if you decalcify physically, over time you're going to energetically activate the pineal gland. Similarly, if you decalcify energetically with the activation, you will eventually physically shift to align with the needs of your pineal gland, getting into a healthier diet, removing toxins, etc. So they do go hand in hand. Okay, now if you have any questions, put them in the comments box and I'll spend some time at the end answering all your questions. Like I said before, there are no silly questions, so just pop them in the comments box and I'll get to them, and we'll start working through some of that for you. So our new meditation is the pineal activation. So I'm really, really excited about this one. When I recorded this, it was insanely powerful and some really weird things happened, which I think I'm going to snip the initial video down and share it with you guys to show you the weird things that happened when I was recording this. The energy was so powerful, I couldn't believe it. So I'd like to share that with you guys just so that you can see the crazy stuff that happens to me sometimes. I think it would be good to share that because I know that you will understand in your own crazy lives too. But the pineal activation is our new energy healing meditation for this month, and it's all about activating and decalcifying your pineal gland. It's going to help you to fully activate your psychic senses, fully awaken all of those psychic senses. It's going to help you to get heightened intuition, so that you're really bringing back all these skills that we had before, accessing higher wisdom and connecting to the unconditional love of source that is around us all the time. We just sometimes can't feel it. Well, the pineal activation is going to do all of that for you. So, you know, we were talking about these two different methods. You can go physically with the diet and the detoxing and the meditation, or you can go energetic activation. That's what the pineal activation is. And to give you a little bit of an understanding, it's basically an energy healing session, and it's channeled directly from a collection of high vibrational guides, like I said, who are your guides too. They're helping all of us on this ascension pathway, and I'm going to go into a little bit about what I picked up on that's in the activation as well before we finish. They're helping us through the awakening process, and it's a pre-recorded video, so it's got all the healing, the activations and the energetic adjustments that you need to activate the pineal gland and bring your psychic senses really up to a higher level. And it's also calm and relaxing. It's just like a meditation that is completed regardless of distance or time. You're just watching it, whether it's on a phone or your laptop or, you know, an iPad. You can just use whatever suits you, and it's less than 20 minutes. It's only available for the next 7 days, so I'll put a link in the comments box and you can see if it resonates with you, if it suits you. And I just want to share a little bit about what I picked up on when I was recording the pineal activation. When I started recording it, I got a lot of information that I wouldn't usually get. It was absolutely incredible. So what my guides and our guides were showing us is that all of us that are coming together now, particularly through this work where we're all connecting, we're on Facebook and you guys are doing the meditations, they're showing me that we're already connected. We've already lived together, we've already known each other through our lifetimes. There's this web that interlinks all of us. So you know me and I know you. And what they were also showing us is that we were there at the time of Atlantis. Not necessarily all at one time when it fell, but I think a lot of you intuitively know that you were there. And they were showing us that Atlantis for many of us was going to be the last incarnation here. It was like, okay, done, ready to move on, and we decided to come back again and start the loop all over again, which is why we're so exhausted, because it's built up over a long time. And it was really powerful, some of the information they were sharing with us and showing me that we are here to rebuild this grid of light that crashed during Atlantis, this web that interlocks around the world. And they showed me how we're all connected. We're starting to become aware, And as we are awakening these parts in ourselves, we're all interlinking again. We're all connecting back up all over the world. Absolutely incredible. So we're all very connected, and it's all coming around again. And you know, it's the start of this awakening the pineal gland, opening it all up. But I'm going to look at sharing a little bit of that video, because I recorded it. And while they were giving me these activations and I'm recording it, the video was cutting out and I was getting all these technical difficulties, and it was insane. The energy was really powerful. So it's a pretty powerful little meditation. So I'm going to have a look at some of the questions now. So if you have any, just stick them in the comments box and I'll get to them. Let's see what I can work through. So let me check if I haven't missed anything. Okay, so Mona was asking any superfood to activate it. No, there's nothing that you need in order to activate your pineal gland. Rather than using a superfood to activate it, you'd actually be better removing toxins and things from your diet. However, it's important to note that 40% of us, I think it is, are already have a calcified pineal gland by the time we're 17. You know, it's already happened. So rather than using foods and diet to change it, it's probably better to go down the energy activation route and then naturally align with healthier things as time goes on, so that you're keeping it clear. But it's a long route, but it can be done certainly. But there's no specific superfood that would activate it. Just cut out the negative. That's a better effect. Let's see what else we've got here. Hello to Vashon. Oh, thank you so much. She says that I am amazing and a gift to this world. That makes me extremely bashful. Thank you. That's really, really sweet of you, and I really appreciate you too. Thank you so much. You guys are so lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so Mona's also asking how to energetically activate yourself. Well, to do that, you would probably need to go and learn something like theta healing or intuitive healing method that would teach you how to do that. That's why I've created this pineal activation, because someone did it for me, my teacher did it for me, and now I'm looking to do it for all of you guys. So the pineal activation can do that for you. But if you want to do it specifically for yourself, you would need to go and do the training and learn the practice of that. I would advise theta healing is probably the best thing that you could use, but it takes time to learn all the different levels of the courses, but certainly something you can do. Let's see, what else have we got on here? Maria, okay, let's see more what you've said. Is this activation safe during spiritual awakening? An amazing question. I mean, we're already so sensitive during the awakening. I fear more psychic information could be overwhelming. You are absolutely right, and I just want to say, if I could give out gold stars for top students, that question deserves a gold star. Perfect question to ask. This activation, specifically this one that I'm doing here, I can't vouch for anyone else's stuff. This one is absolutely safe during awakening, because like I said, we've got this collection of higher vibrational guides, and they've come together as a collective. They are there to make sure that we get where we're meant to be going, because this is our last incarnation on earth. We are done. This is the last one. So we've come with a purpose, and we've come with a mission to fulfill, and these guides are helping us to get there by kind of smoothing the process, making the activations, putting things in place that we're going to need to support us on that journey. And they are very careful with the way that they adjust things, and they adjust it for each individual. So even though it's the same video and the same activation and healing you're watching, these guides are absolutely adjusting it specifically for you to make sure that it is safe. So yes, it's absolutely safe to do, and they're not going to give you way more information or psychic awareness than what is compatible with your body and your mind right now. So it's safe to do. However, what I would say is, if you're worried about it, just do it for the activation, and then you don't need to do it again, or do it again in months' time. It's not something that you need to do every day. There's no need whatsoever to do that one time for an activation. That's all you need. And just make sure that you keep nice and grounded after it. Maria, I'm just tuning into you as we're working. There's something around you that's making you more ungrounded. Sorry to interrupt the video with this, but it's an important message. There's some sort of pink stone. I don't know if you've got rose quartz, or I think it's a pale pink stone. Don't know if it's in your room or in your home, might even be in the garden, but it's big. It's not like a tiny little thing, it's a bigger thing. watch out for that, because something like that is affecting your energy and making you more ungrounded. And if you can remove it for a while, you'll feel a lot better. Just a little note for you there. Okay, so Elizabeth says her psychic abilities comes and goes. What does that mean? Does it mean she's not tuning in properly, or is she doing it all wrong? Elizabeth, not at all. You're not doing anything wrong. You're relearning how to use a skill that you've had before. Okay, this is a forgotten skill and it doesn't come with a handbook. So it takes a bit of work to learn how does it work and how can I make it better and how can I make my intuition stronger. Absolutely doing nothing wrong. If it comes and goes, there could be a few reasons for that. One could be that your guides are protecting you from tuning in too high too quickly. Okay, now this has happened to me multiple times throughout my awakening. My intuition, which is usually really on point, just cuts off. It's like, done. And I'm like, oh no, guys, what are you doing? And it's for your safety. It's to make sure that you don't raise your vibration too high, or you don't get access to information that's not appropriate right now because you've got some learning to do. It's natural for that to come and go throughout the awakening process, but it will level out. And when it levels out, it will be higher and more acute than ever before. So you're doing everything absolutely right. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just part of the process, and it's a natural part of the process. So don't worry about that. And Elizabeth's asking, what gifts do I have? That's a good question. Well, as things have opened up, I would say I've become a lot more intuitive. I find my healing abilities have become a lot more powerful, and I find it really easy now, specifically since I've come through the deeper parts of my awakening, to tune into people, to read energy, to spot people's past lives, their issues, their ill health, things like that. So yeah, but we've all got this. This isn't something that's specific to me. It's yours too. It is your birthright. And it's something that you had back at the time of these fallen civilizations like Atlantis, and you're getting it back now. That's what it's all about. And Elizabeth also says, I remember you told me to remove all crystals and healing stones for 2 weeks and use tea tree oil. It works. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you for trying that and trusting me, because I know it's not easy to pull away all the spiritual things, but I'm really glad that you found that it works. It definitely does work. Right, let's see. Mona's saying she gets visions, but she can't stay too much in that, and she'll be wondering, oh, what's that, who is that, and what does it mean. She says she puts everything in a journal, which is a really good idea, and she'd like to be more involved in meditation. Right, this is exactly what I was talking to Elizabeth about. There's nothing wrong with you if your visions come and go, if your intuition switch on and off, if sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. This is all part of you learning the foundations for understanding the gift that you've got. Like I said, it doesn't come with a handbook, it takes a bit of practice. Okay, so the visions, what you want to be doing is exactly what you're doing, keeping a journal, noticing what comes up, noticing how it might mean something different, or it might reflect differently in the world, and then also checking it in a few months' time to see if anything has cropped up that you saw or that you visualised. But visions I've had for a really long time, and it could be a really freaky part of your awakening, because at first you're like, what is that, and can I trust it, is that even real, or am I mad? Questioned that many times, but no, you're not mad. It's just part of learning to use a gift that you've had before, and that's why it'll be so clear and so kind of overwhelming, but it'll all come into alignment. So keep practicing. It's really good that you're doing that. Let's see. Thank you so much for your lovely compliments, guys. I really appreciate it. So Maria says, thanks for the advice. My crystals are hidden away. The only big pink stone I can think of is Himalayan rock salt lamp. Yes, that's the one. That's definitely the one. Move it out if you can. Try that, because what I could feel as we were, as I was talking to you, it must be a really pressing message, because I don't quite often get that in these videos, is it must be really affecting you, so definitely get that out of the space. And let's see, Elizabeth says, thank you for this information, it's amazing. Feeling blessed and so grateful. I feel blessed and so grateful. Thank you so much for coming to watch, guys. It means so much to me to be able to share this information and to be connected to you guys, and I'm absolutely honoured that you come along and you listen and you use what I kind of guide you to do. So thank you very much. So I'll just take 1 or 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap up, because I don't want the video to be too long for you guys. Elizabeth says she's got 3 salt lamps. Yeah, remove them out your space and just see if it makes any difference. Depends how sensitive you are. Some people are fine with Himalayan rock salt lamps during awakening, and others are quite deeply affected. let's see, Mona also says, my crystals get cracks and they break. Yeah, it's weird. That could be the intensity of the energy that's coming off you right now, or it could just be a kind of intuitive nudge of like, these aren't really so good for your energy right now. That might be what's happening to you. Oh, you guys are giving me so many lovely compliments. You're going to make me bashful. Right, thank you very much. Like I said, I will put the link to the pineal activation. That's our meditation that's out for this month. It's only available for the next 7 days, and I will pop the link in the comments box. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching later and it's not live and you have any questions, just pop them in the box and I will be happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care.